Solving two-step equations. This is a review for Math 7. So first, when we're solving two-step equations in 7th grade, we would have to figure out what our two steps are. Our first step will always have to be eliminating the constant. Remember that constant is the number by itself. And then our second step will always have to be eliminating or getting rid of the coefficient. Remember that coefficient is the number next to the variable. So now let's think about what our first step is going to be when we have 5x plus 14 equals 25. We know that the number by itself on the side with the x is going to be that 14. So if we get rid of it, we need to do the opposite operation, which is plus 14 is minus 14. We know that that can eliminate it. So 25 minus 14 would be 11 because we would have to do it to the other side of the equal sign if we do it to the first side. Now, once we get rid of that, we're going to end up with 5x, and 25 minus 14 is going to be 11. Now we would have to do our second step, which is eliminating the coefficient. And in order to do that, we would have to divide both sides by 5 because 5x means 5 times x, and the inverse operation of multiplying would be dividing. So that can get rid of that. And then 11 divided by 5, if you convert that into a decimal, we get x equals 2.2. Now let's do some examples together. Number 1, 2x minus 14 equals 16. So our first step will always have to be getting rid of the constant, which is right there. And I'm going to do the inverse operation by looking at that minus, we would have to do adding. So if we add 14 to both sides, we can get rid of that. 16 plus 14 is 30. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the 2x. And now we have to get rid of the coefficient, the number in front of the variable. And we would have to do multiplication or division. And in this case, it's going to be division because 2x means 2 times x. So divide both sides by 2, and we can get rid of that 2. Bring down the x, bring down the equal sign, and we would just have to do 30 divided by 2, and that would be 15. Remember, we can always check our work by plugging it back into our original equation. So I'm going to do my check on the side, just in case. I'm going to do 2, plug in my 15, my answer, minus 14, and I'm going to see if that gives you 16. 2 times 15 is 30. 30 minus 14, that does give you 16. So yes, that is correct. Second example, we have negative 4x plus 15 equals 18. I'm going to get rid of my constant. That number by itself is 15 on the side where the x is there. And then we can cross out the 15. 18 minus 15 is 3. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the negative 4x. And then we're going to now divide both sides by negative 4. And that can get rid of that. And we can get our x by itself. And negative 3/4, you can also say it's x equals negative 0.75 if you want to convert it into a decimal. And then if you want to check that, we can definitely just plug it into our x and then just check it on your calculator. And that would be fine. Third example, now we have 1.5x plus 4 equals 20. I'm going to subtract the 4 to both sides. You get 16, and then you bring down the 1.5x. You divide both sides by 1.5, and you can get x by itself. And then we can do our division on the side. Top dog goes in the house. We can't have decimals, so we're going to have to make it 160 divided by 15. 15 doesn't go into 1, but it goes into 16 once. Subtract, bring down the 0. 15 does not go into 10, so you put a 0. And then you bring down another 0. And then 15 goes into 100 6 times. 6 times 15 is 90. And then you get 10 again, so we know that's repeating. So it's going to be 10.6 repeating. That's the answer for the last one. And then our next example, we have 15 minus 8x equals 45. Now we have a constant first. So make sure that you know that 15 is a positive. So in order to eliminate it, we would have to subtract 15 to both sides, not add. And that can finally cross it out. 45 minus 15 is 30. Bring down the negative 8x because minus 8x is the same thing as negative 8x. And then we'll be able to divide both sides by negative 8. And then we can get 8 x by itself. And then we can divide 30 by 8. Doesn't go into 3, but goes into 30 3 times. And then we can add a decimal. 8 goes into 67 times because 8 times 7 is 56. Bring down another 0. 8 goes into 40 equally 5 times. And that concludes our division. And our answer is going to be 3.75. However, we know that it was a positive divided by a negative. And if we remember the integer rules, it would be a negative as our answer because we divided a positive by a negative. And that would be our final answer for this one. And this concludes our notes for solving two sub-equations.